Hello, I'm Kathy Chester, and this is Move It or Lose It, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, spirit, and soul. All right, guys, here we are, another week of Move It or Lose It podcast. So today, I know I say this every week, I'm so excited, but truly, I got this hot girl on that everybody's got. I mean, I cannot find a spot on anything that is on TV. Didn't you make a movie, Brooke? No, just kidding. But she's on everything. You go on Instagram, anything, she's on it. Any podcast thing, I look interviewing you. So without further ado, my guest today is Miss Brooke Slick. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. Very excited. You offer so much to our MS community and have for so long. And listening to you on podcasts and your positive attitude and the advice that you give back, that you share, always inspires me. So I had done something a few days ago where I said 2020 gave us time to pause and really gave me time to start, because there's so many things that I had on hold. The podcast, I'm not good at writing anymore. My hands just don't want to do that. So
Yep.
Nor can I with fog spell worth. All of a sudden that's gone. Spelling, grammar, what's that? So I am looking for a ghostwriter. So, but doing things now that are opening up, that are safe for us to do, but things that I just couldn't do during COVID, but was able, we talked about this a little bit before the interview, like you were able to kind of hone in on what do I want to do when the world opens and they're all going, to Maui and getting sick and they're, bikining it up, they're all in one pool, and I'm not going to do that. So what do I want to do with my life to help others? So now when 2020 happened for you, tell me about how your life was. What happened with you for that?
Believe it or not, a month before things started shutting down, or it came to light in the press, COVID came to light. I had just had cranial surgery in January 2020. I had cranial surgery for trigeminal neuralgia.
Right, I read that.
So I was recovering from that, and that was in January.
Tell people that they don't know what that is.
Trigeminal neuralgia is a lot of MS patients have it, but it's not exclusive.
I know.
Yeah, right. It's not exclusive to MS. And it comes in a couple of different forms, but you get these horrible electrical shocks that go up through your trigeminal nerves that go here, here, and here. Yeah. And it's pretty much debilitating. Your life comes to a complete stop. It's incredibly painful, more horrible than any MS symptom I've ever had or had to go through. So anyway, I was recovering from that, and funny thing is, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take this new year and I'm going to start eating better. And I started this new diet, and a week after, everything shuts down. Grocery store, everything. Right. But I was in the middle of participating in the Life Bulb challenge. It was an MS challenge, right, where the mobility device that I patented.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, I was part of that. So I was kind of all tangled up in that. And actually, that's not true. That's not true. That was this year. See, what the hell year is it? It's 2022. That was last year. The year before that, I was not part of the Light Bulb challenge. It was a year after that, which was last year. Oh my God. Yeah. So
it's this whole year. It's just crazy, right? It's like
it was okay for me because I was already kind of down. Number one, it's winter here. Right. It was winter. So I was already in because I don't do a whole lot in the winter as far as going out. Right. But it did, anybody that you were connecting with before, it gave you the opportunity to really connect with people because
Oh, for sure.
online was all you had. It's not,
Right.
you weren't going to meet up with anybody
Right.
anywhere.
No.
Everybody just went boom to
Right.
Instagram and Facebook, and everything was online.
Right.
So that was the cool part. Plus,
Yeah.
in the disability chronic illness space, our life didn't change a whole hell of a lot.
No.
It's
No,
like
it really didn't. It was funny
limitation,
because
no
we were kind of at
problem.
peace. Right.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was like I felt like, and I'm sure you did too, I was teaching others how to calm down and sit.
yes,
I'm like, there are
yes,
times that we just have to sit and we don't want to. I'm hyper as can be. My kids
yeah,
just said the Energizer Bunny, once she got MS, just kind of battery slowed down just a little bit.
yeah,
And so for me, it's hard for me to sit still, but with MS through the years, you learn, even if
yeah,
it's not your personality, that, okay, it will either force you or you will obey it and you will sit down and relax.
yeah.
So,
And
and so
you
we've
don't get to
learned that.
control it either.
Right.
And that was the other
No,
thing, we had no control over COVID. This was the first time
right.
in so many people's lives that they truly had zero control. And obviously, some people lost their over it.
Yeah. And
And
still have lost their
we're
minds.
sitting back on,
What's
you
going
know,
on? Settle
y-
down.
yeah, you'll be
The amount of
fine.
times I was like, calm down. They're like,
Yeah,
but I'm like, I know, but you will not die. You will
yeah.
have a Christmas and a Thanksgiving and maybe 3 that you'll just be with family. It's okay. You're not going to go see your grandma. You just got back from
Gonna look a
Miami
little different.
and it's okay.
Yeah. I did a
So
lot
talk
of
to,
eye rolling. I've been doing a
yes,
lot of eye rolling the last 2 years. All the comments you see, it's like, oh, you
yeah, I
lost
should
your
have my
job.
mug
You had to
that
quit.
says
You had
my
to.
eye roll. I have a mug that says because my husband's like, your eye rolls say everything. I'm like, I don't try. I just have giant eyes. And I'm like, I don't know what to say sometimes to people. So my eyes say it
Yeah.
all, I guess.
Yeah.
So now let's go backwards and talk about when you were diagnosed. What
Okay.
year was that?
2006.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
my
2006.
first
No, you
symptom
go.
was 2001.
Okay.
2001, I got optic neuritis. First up 4 times throughout all the years. But
Okay.
yeah, I was on my way to an interview and lost the vision, part of the vision of
Yeah.
my one eye. And but then, but the thing was, I had a stroke.
Oh,
That's what a lot of people don't know.
no,
The
I did
year
not know that.
before, yeah, in 2000, I had a stroke from a
Wow.
completely different autoimmune condition called a lupus anticoagulant that causes clotting. So anyway, lost the vision. They assumed that my Coumadin, which I was taking at the time,
Right.
wasn't being properly monitored, and I had a blood clot in the eye. They just assumed that because, of course, we did an MRI. They didn't see anything. They didn't. Then for 4 years, nothing, no symptoms, no nothing. I had recovered from the stroke already. Um,
Right.
but yeah,
How
nothing.
was
I
the
got my
eye? The
vision
eye was
back.
fine too.
Yes,
Okay.
I want to say it was 2 months. After 2 months,
Okay.
it completely came back. But it wasn't until 2005-ish that I started having problems with my lip. I couldn't say any words that had a P. I couldn't suck on a
Okay.
straw. I couldn't whistle. Well, they thought I had Bell's palsy. Did I have another
Yeah, I can't
stroke?
whistle either anymore. I'm like,
Right.
just doesn't
Yeah.
come out. I'm like,
Well, it wasn't that. And the guy who I had been seeing about my stroke since 2000, he was also an MS specialist. I still see
okay.
him after all these years.
Okay.
We came to
Good.
the
That's a good
conclusion.
thing.
Yeah, he's
You must
fantastic.
like him.
Yes, I do. He came to the conclusion after more MRIs that it was in fact MS. So, and at the
Right.
time, I didn't have no mobility challenges at all.
Okay.
I'm trying to think it. I don't even think I had any numbness or anything then.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I
So it's
really,
just literally the optic neuritis and the lesions. They probably obviously found lesions.
yep. Well, I already had the stroke lesions, which actually were
Right,
different
right.
than the MS lesions. But yeah, they did find more lesions.
Okay.
So, they put all the pieces together and it's like, boom, now you're officially diagnosed. And of course, I went the beta seron,
So that
Capaxone.
was your first one, beta seron, and
Yes,
then trickle,
yeah,
trickle.
yes. Galenia, but it was Fingolimid
That
at
was
the time.
something,
It
right,
was it was a
right.
trial. That was
How
a
did you
hot
do on
mess.
that?
I got a huge lesion, like at the base of my skull. It was bad.
Yeah,
I mean, it didn't work. Nothing
right,
worked. And then all along, ever since Tysabri came out, my doctor was trying
right.
to twist my arm to take it. I didn't want to take it, just because of the risk of PML.
What's
I
that?
was, yeah, really. And thank God I was JC virus negative, but he tried to get me, what the heck is the blood? Oh my God, this is horrible.
Coumadin?
No, I was on Coumadin for 13 years after that until my HSCT.
Right,
Um,
right.
but God, I want to say it's like a blood exchange thing, but that's not what it's called. We
I'm
tried to get it.
sorry, Brooke. I don't know.
Oh my
I don't know
God,
what it is.
absolutely awful.
Well, you'll remember it.
I'll remember, but anyway, we tried to get that
It'll
three
be after
times.
the interview.
Yeah, of course it will. As
We'll put
as
it
soon as
on
I
the
log
bottom of the
on.
show notes.
Yeah. But I get turned down for that and finally caved for the Tysabri because I had no options left. I had
Right.
no options left. And
Not
at the
then, no.
and and I didn't
Yeah,
know.
that was it.
Well, that I was on Tysabri in 2011 to 2012, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah,
Okay. So I was on
because
it before then. So I was doing the trial and then got on it, got off it right in the middle of when they did a recall on it because
yes,
a couple people
yes,
did crazy stuff. And the thing with
yeah.
that made me so mad is that the doctor at the time, I loved my neurologist. He was so amazing. He passed away a few years ago. And it was heartbreaking. We were all just like, no. But one of the things that I lost my train of thought with the Tysabri, but had something to do, you sparked something. I don't know, but we'll just keep going. But the Tysabri definitely worked well for me, but it was the trial. Oh, I know. Then they took everybody off. And what made me mad is that these people that died from it were still taking, talk about not being monitored. They were still on their Copaxone, their Avonex, whatever they were taking, doubling down and then going on the Tysabri. Because you
What?
think about, you get your shots, right? They're at home. So in their brain, they're thinking, well, double down, it'll be better. I'm like, so we're taking this medicine off because people are stupid.
Wow.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know we have to investigate all of that, but that was what they found.
Wow.
So what they started once we could get back on it was doing, because they had to, be as safe as they could to make sure they were following all the guidelines. And so we just got our, blood work done every 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
being on it for so many years, I just signed the paperwork. I never had anything wrong.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? Good. How's the optic neuritis? Same. How's this? There were the same little things that were, I'm always numb. So, the same things, but nothing new. The only time
Yeah.
I ever had anything new was when I went through my divorce and had no insurance. And then all of a sudden I thought, I'm strong. I got this. I can go a few more months. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it was like, nope, and really bad. So Tysabri didn't work for you.
No.
So then you went from there. What was the next step?
The next step was I finally came to the conclusion I was going to have to take off from work. Go to physical rehab because at this point I had foot drop. My fingers were numb, my toes were numb, parts of my legs were numb.
Right.
My balance sucked. blah, 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 the whole thing.
Right.
I thought I was going to do 6 weeks of intensive physical rehab and see how it goes.
Right.
Well, it didn't go. But in the meantime, while I was off, I discovered this woman on Facebook. Her name was Amy Peterson. She was from Texas. She went to Moscow for this procedure called HSCT. I'm like, wait, well, I had actually seen Dr. Burt several years earlier on, like, I don't know, CBS or the morning news, I don't know,
Right.
with this kid who had MS, and he had treated him. But at the time, I didn't associate HSCT, nothing. Like, I
Right.
didn't put two and two together, but I knew it was a huge, huge success. Well,
So hold
anyway,
me one second, Brooke, before you go. So at that time, it was Moscow, Mexico.
no, Mexico was
No, not
not,
yet.
no,
Not Mexico. So just
or
Moscow
Chicago. Chicago was
and
an
Chicago.
option,
Right.
but not really, because I think I likely would have been rejected because I was too far along in my disease
Okay.
progression. Plus, it was $250,000.
I'm like,
Yeah, and
how?
yeah, and in the meantime, and I went through my insurance. Now, a lot of insurances, well, before they closed their program, insurances started loosening up and paying for it.
Right.
But anyway, in the meantime, I had already fallen in love with the staff and the procedure in Moscow.
Right. Which is
So,
so important.
yeah, I was like, no problem. Meanwhile, I contacted Amy Peterson while she was still there. She took my
Oh, good.
information to Dr.
Oh,
Fedorenko, and within a month, I was accepted, and I had the
wow.
procedure. I was in Moscow 4 months later in April.
Wow. So
Yeah.
were you afraid to go?
No.
Did you feel safe because you already knew them? You've already
Totally
talked through
safe.
everything.
Totally safe. I had
That's
already done
awesome.
some world traveling, so I wasn't afraid. It's not like I had never been out
Right.
of the United States, so
Right.
none of that scared me. The language barrier didn't
Right.
scare me because I traveled around the world with no Google Maps, no Google Translate,
Right.
before. So I'm like, this is a cakewalk. It's just gonna. But anyway.
See, now, Brooke, I think that because I could always do it. And then I get somewhere, I'm like, I don't know anymore. Like how, like brain fog just kicked in. So I can't do that anymore. I can't go too many things that I thought I could do that I think like I got it. And then I'll stack it up. And I'm like, nope, can't do that. So
Yeah.
that's good though. That's awesome that you were not afraid. You could do it. So did you
Yeah.
go solo? You went on your own?
No, I took my mom with me,
Okay.
who was
Thank
72
God.
at the time. Yeah. And she stayed in a hotel because it's inpatient in Moscow. She stayed in a hotel for a month while I was there. And, she shopped for me, and, we had FaceTime and video chat and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So it's really 4 weeks out of your life to
Right.
halt your disease. Okay, I can do that.
Right.
So, yeah,
And so
very
then
fortunate.
I know I don't want to get too much into because I know they go onto your website, right? And they can look at the
Yes, yes,
story.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so go ahead and give that, and we'll put it at you don't get into a car accident if you're driving. It'll be at the bottom of the show notes. But your website is, you go ahead.
Well, you can actually, if you want, just to make it super easy, just go to brookeslick.com, and there'll be a choice there where you can hit it. I think it says my HSCT story.
Yeah.
So you click that, it'll take you to my blog where I blogged every single day there.
Yeah.
Everything since I only post like once a year these days.
It's
Because
really
there's
good. I would
really
definitely
nothing to
suggest
post.
you go into it because
But
you go through, you were so thorough. And that's why I think when we first started talking, I said, I really want you on this because the fact that you were so thorough in explaining everything, because so many of our MS people don't really understand it. They know parts of it. They've heard some things. They've heard some nightmares. They've heard some really great things.
yeah,
And, like the thing that we talked about before the interview started is that, I'm looking into that now, and I'm like, I don't want to be so bad that I have to I want to be able to have it before I can't do anything.
Yes.
And so
And we
that's
all
why
who have
I'm
already
very,
had it, that's what we have to say to you. We want you to
yes.
have it before that happens.
And that's why I think it's so important that you are having your voice heard now with even you've got a podcast for it now. Is that right?
Well, I'm the host of the MS Gym podcast.
No, but aren't you also doing something with just the people that are having like the stem cells?
No, I was on the HSCT Warriors podcast. They're all
Yes.
veterans.
Okay.
And I follow them. I'm part of them. I have great respect for them. But I do, and some other Moscow veterans have been guests on there. In Mexico, anybody
Okay.
who's a veteran can, and look them up. They're on Instagram,
Yeah.
HSCT Warrior
And, yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
I listened to that, so I'll put that at the bottom too. I loved that. And then you're also on the MS Gym webs. And then that podcast, you do that with another person, and her name
Yes.
is
Jodi Feltham.
Jodi
And
Feltham,
she
yeah.
had HSCT in Mexico.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And we
Okay.
actually, at one point, we even did a podcast episode comparing the two facilities.
Yes, I listened to that
So,
one.
yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting. So go back and listen to that one. If you guys have not, go back and listen to that. It's a really good one. It's on the MS Gym podcast, and it's I don't remember what number it was, but you'll see it. It's where they both talk about, and one was in Mexico, what you were in Moscow. And it was a really good one. So I would definitely tell us what is the to get to your cool thing that you made for walking. What is the I saw it earlier, I checked into it. Is that to get into that, to find it?
It's DashCart. It's dashcart.com.
DashCart.
Yes.
So go on to DashCart. I saw it. I was like, this is awesome. So how did you come up with that? Like, explain to me what it is.
Okay. What we're talking about is it's a mobility / assistive device.
I'll try to pull it up over here so I can show it.
Yeah. It's a mobility / assistive device that came out of my brain one day when this is after I had HSCT. I still had imbalance issues, still had foot drop, but I was putting away some luggage and and it was a piece of hard side spinner luggage, upright.
Right.
And I'm rolling
I noticed that. I was like,
yeah. I was rolling it from one end of the house to the other. And all of a sudden I'm standing up straight and I'm walking much faster than I typically do.
Right.
Because I'm not looking for something to balance on. I'm holding on to it. So and I was
one
like,
or two?
Just one. Because I only needed one.
Right.
I was like, wow. So I walked back and forth. I'm like, that's crazy. So I walked back and forth through the house. I'm like, wait a minute. And just all of a sudden this device started to evolve in my brain. And, and it was basically, which I still to this day, I use my version of it in my home. It has a wire basket on top of it.
Right?
It's already patented.
Okay, so I'm gonna show the.
Oh,
I don't want to. Can you see it?
Oh, just a little. Oh, it's gone. That's okay.
So I wanted you to go, but you got to see it because it's very, very cool. Let's see if I can get it back up. So what it does is exactly what you explained. If I do this, I don't want to lose here. So it is like the cart that she explained. And then on the bottom, it's got wheels. So it turns and it locks, I assume, too, right?
Yep. Now it doesn't show there are interchangeable baskets and bags.
Okay.
Some are mesh,
it does
some
right
are
here.
There. Yeah.
There's the basket, which I love that.
Yeah.
So just,
There's a bigger
look
one.
it up. I'm just giving you a little part of it.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's made my life a lot bigger and made me a lot more independent within the home.
Yes.
I don't have to wait for my husband or constantly saying, could you bring me this? Could you carry this? Could you this? Could you that? I do it myself.
I love that.
And it's made a huge, like my life would be completely different if I Yeah.
I'm definitely going to put this out, because a lot of times when I'm training an MS patient and let's say they're going to go to their long bands and they're way over here and
Yeah.
they're like, ugh,
Yep.
and they don't want to, get in the scooter because they're like, I can do this.
Yes.
But they're trying to do a cane and they've got this. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, I love this.
It's
Because a
got
lot
cane
of them,
holders.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys could use this. It'd be awesome for you guys to get, because some of their homes are bigger and they've got some spots they like to do some of the workout, and then they want to go to another spot. By that time, they're like, okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
remember, I always try to give a reminder, this day we're going to do this and this. You need these bands. And
Yeah.
then, our brain fog kicks in and they're like, forgot that.
Well,
I'm
plus
like, okay.
carrying them with using your cane. It's all about having to
Right.
carry multiple things at once.
And
Like,
being able to put that in a basket
yes. Oh, the
is
things
so
like,
convenient. I love that.
yeah. So
Look into that for sure. I love that you're so good at that. I think of things and nothing in my brain would. So again, I asked you during how did you, we talked about 2020. How would you say your advocating has changed since then? From now looking forward, where do you want to be? What things do you really want to focus on, like moving forward?
I always, and I don't think this has changed, I always want to be on the side of encouragement, but I also want to, I encourage realistically.
Yeah.
It's because it's not always going to be okay.
No.
Your life as a whole is going to be okay. Your MS
Right.
might not be okay.
Right.
And you need to be prepared for that, but don't sit there waiting for it either.
Right. Right.
Like, don't be
Amen.
afraid that'd be like if I woke up every single day and said, oh my God, today I might get hit by a bus. Today,
Right. Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's really easy to fall into that trap when you have
It
MS,
is.
because Lord knows you could have a month where you lose 5 different abilities. And
Exactly.
it's just like one thing after the other. You're like, oh my God, this is
Absolutely.
it. It's over.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. This is the beginning of the end now.
Yes.
This is where I saw that client. They started here and then they went here and here, and now they're in bed. And
Yes.
so our brains can go brrr, and we get really nerved up,
Oh yeah.
which does wonders for our body.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's still a
I'm all
big,
about
big part of
encouragement.
you. Yes.
I'm
Very
about
much so.
realistic encouragement and
Yeah.
positivity. And I'm totally I am anti Debbie Downer. That does not mean that you can't have, a poor me moment. We all have the poor me moments, the
Right.
little pity parties.
Yes.
But Jesus, don't dwell in it.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
don't.
That's a bad, my Brittany, the had MS. You know her also. So I know we only know handles. A hot MS. So she's one of my favorites.
Okay.
And she had I swear you know her. So she always says the black hole. And I can so relate to that, because once we go into that black hole, it's like to get out of it is so hard. So we keep ourselves out of that hole. And honestly, I think that for me, 2020 brought, because in my life, in my area, I don't have a lot of MS people until I started to do podcasting and stuff like that, which I wanted to forever. But I didn't have a lot of, I think because I was diagnosed so early, going back to having symptoms in the late 90s. I think that it was something that we hid and we didn't want anyone to know about it because it was scary. Are they going to take our kids? Are we going to lose our job?
Yeah.
So it was never a thing for me to go publish, I have this. And so it was a long time for me. I would do little things like I talked about in the clinic that I go to. I would have talks with newly diagnosed patients. I would do some movement with them, and I would do things around, but I didn't want to get too, because it was always that fear of losing your job or losing your kids.
Being
and so
exposed.
I was very careful. Yes. That wasn't ever a good thing like it is now, where we have the freedom to talk about this.
Right.
which is awesome that we can do that. So I do love that we've got so many of us that we've met and then have this ability to encourage and make aware. So with so many of our new clients, but not just the new clients, our young clients, but clients that have had it for so long and have had no idea that this stuff is available.
Yeah.
So you probably know this, but I've been doing some of the podcasts with like neuro-ophthalmologist, neuro chiropractor, things that our MS patients and autoimmune patients don't know is available to them.
Right.
They just don't know. So I would say that that's for me a big part of like really showing our patients like what is out there for you.
Yeah.
Things to look forward to, that things are hard and things can be scary, but it doesn't have to be so gloomy. So I love that part about you.
If there was ever a good time to have MS, this is it, because the resources are greater than they've ever been.
Absolutely.
Whether you're newly diagnosed or you've had it for 10 years, the resources are whatever your niche within MS is.
Yes.
There's a space for you there.
Yeah.
And there are people waiting there for you. So
yes, absolutely. So Dr. Brooke, tell me about your podcasting. When did you start that and how did you belong? How did you find the MS gym?
I found the MS gym. Somebody shared it on Facebook. I started following immediately. That was 2019. I was like member number 200 something. Now it's like 25,000 something.
That's how many I have, Brooke.
Oh, well, no,
I'm just my little self.
No, it was so small then. And I think even Trevor, who created it, had no idea how much of a need for it there was. Like he was surprised even himself. Well, anyway, I started following along and, they have a Facebook community and I was always involved in that. Well, the next thing you know, I get an email from, Trevor's right-hand man, Ken, saying, they already had a podcast, but it was just recordings of his motivational speeches.
Yes.
So it was never a guest format. So they decided they wanted to go guest format with a host and contacted me and said, we think you'd be a perfect fit. And I was like, what? Really? And I was like, I'd love to do it. So initially for the first year and a half, I did it on my own. And then, I had so many things going on and came to know Jodi Feltham. And she's fantastic. So I asked her to be a co-host and she was like, yes. And, so I do guests. We both do guests, but she concentrates more on members and their victories. And I concentrate on the general MS topics, whether it's
love that.
Social Security, disability, or, just different stuff.
Gosh, I just started that. What a nightmare that is, right?
Oh, geez. I need to change my curtain's blinding me.
I was like,
sorry.
It's one of those days here too that the sun's out and it's a tricky one because it's freezing outside.
Yes.
But it looks like it's going to be nice, but it's not. It's cold.
Oh, geez.
But no, I agree. I think that I loved when I listened to some of the podcasts. I love the difference of having the members that are doing so well because it gives you hope. And a lot of times that's what I'll do is I'll say, is it okay if I just video a little bit of what you're doing? Because I want you to see it, that you're now, you were only able to, I'm like, wait, what happened? You were only able to come down this far in a squat. Now I want you to watch and be as excited as I am what you're doing. So I'll send it to them, but I'll also ask, can I put it out so that people can see? And a lot of times I'll interview them and talk about like what they're doing and how we got here and how we've worked on this. And again, like we've talked about, it's not an overnight thing. This takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for no, I don't care what treatment you're looking for, especially when it comes to physical therapy or physical movement of any kind, especially it's been a long time. You know, you can't fix 20 years worth of, or even 10 years worth of MS
Exactly.
damage
Right.
overnight.
Right.
But you
I
can
mean, good
definitely
Lord,
get,
no.
yeah, you can get a
Yeah.
great foundation to take it from there, you know,
And I'm sure you found the same thing in the MS gym is where I'll have somebody with secondary MS saying, I can't do this. I'm saying, we don't say can't. Let's not
right.
say that. Let's just breathe through and see what we can focus on. A lot of
Yeah.
times I won't do music because I notice that they'll start like going to the music and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need you to focus on what your legs are doing right now or what your
Yeah.
arms, your chest, whatever we're working on.
Yeah.
And really for me, it's not just a one and done. It's not just like we're doing this for your back. It's every part of our bodies, right?
Mhm.
Because for me, it's always been what we don't use, we'll lose. So
Right.
for me, movement doesn't mean we're doing burpees. It means that we're moving our body in certain areas. We don't get that hug, that bow constructor hug. And we've got to move every part. So if we have a fall, we want to be strong in our upper body to catch ourselves. Yes, legs are important. Nobody wants to lose our legs,
Yeah.
but it's doing it all in combination of different things as well too. And
Right.
especially I think being a female, sometimes it gives you, I've had to stop several times in a session. Like let's say Brooke, you and I were doing a session and I could tell like you're not with me. Your mind's somewhere else. You got a lot of stress that morning, whatever got you here. So I might stop and just say, before we start again, we're going to like just do some regular breathing, hand on diaphragm, let's just do some breathing and calm down. Because I noticed that some of the times the things that I've seen in the MS, not the MS gym, but in MS, whoever these people are that are on
Fitness.
Instagram that
MS
I'm like,
fitness.
all the crazy stuff that I'm like, what are you doing? And I'll see like pendulum lunges and I'm like, okay, who can do that? And
Yeah.
is there anything these people are holding on to when they
Yeah.
fall? And what a bummer for the people who are in a chair.
Yeah.
They're looking at that thinking, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I know I've seen this with you guys, and I always do this is option one. This is option
Yes.
two.
Yes.
And it may be a day where your legs are just not going to want to get up. We're going to do this seated. And so,
and some of the
when
exercises are you can do in bed.
absolutely. Absolutely. So some of my Zoom ones that I do with, with different clients, it'll be like maybe 20 or whatever. I have a couple that are literally in bed and they're doing their stuff and I'll have different options. So with you doing the podcast, so tell me like, you'll bring in someone that may have, give me something that you got coming on, someone like somebody that excites you that you've heard lately, somebody that's
I'll tell you somebody who excites everybody, and it's going to be a really great topic. And that person is Trevor, who I rarely get to. I mean, he was on in the beginning, but he hasn't been on, I don't even think, since. But he, of all people, for this particular topic, is the person that I want to speak to our audience.
Okay.
And it's going to be about a comparison between the value of trekking poles and canes.
Like it.
What's best for you?
Yeah.
What's not good for you at all?
Right.
Like what's like the advantages and the disadvantages of using a cane versus trekking poles.
Yeah, I like that. I have a funny story, Brooke, that I went, so 2020, the first time I had to get a cane. So I went to get a cane and I went into the hospital store that we have here. And I was like, I've never used a cane. So I'm already, nerved up about the fact that okay, this is now coming to the spots that we're going down. So get the cane. I'm like, I don't know how to use it. I actually had to YouTube it because they had no idea. They had no idea how to use a cane. I'm like, where are we in our hospital? Where are we in our care?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a whole nother podcast. Our care, hospitalization, our care in this country has just been terrifying. And it's the answers I get from patients who are not taking meds because, or not going in because of their fear is scary. And yeah, so that's a big one for me. And so for you going on, like we talked about, doing the MS podcast, interviewing Trevor, which tell him, put a little in his ear that I want to interview him.
Have him on.
So
yeah,
I definitely want to. I'd love to have you both on.
Oh gosh.
But,
I would gladly do that, but he's got enough. Let him be.
I may have he and his wife on if she's willing to do it.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
everybody loves
I'd love to do that. Yeah. So I'd love to do that. So my husband and I do a lot of it together. He helps me with a lot of it. So I understand that. And since doing the podcast, he does AV. So he does a lot of this. And so it is a huge help, obviously. And I just hired Steve. He is a big help with Kathy's podcast. So Kathy Reagan, so I hired him to do some of the editing. And I'll put that in the bottom. He's a great, and
I do my own. I even know what my ums look like on an audio screen.
That's what my husband said.
There's an yeah.
Because he was doing it all along, and I'm like, you have too much going on. But he's like, I know exactly where your ums are. I can just, I'm like, so podcasting, what do you think was the biggest, what can you give me your two? I'll give you two of your favorite podcasts since you started with the MS Gym.
Oh my gosh.
I tricked you. I didn't even give you that ahead of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be your favorite. Two of the ones that you remember right now.
Honestly, I did a really good one with Marwa Casey, who's known as the MSMD on Instagram. Yeah. I did one on COVID with her.
Okay.
In October. That was really good. It was right after the booster information had come out.
Yes.
So it was kind of an update, but it was awesome in that I think I purposely asked questions that I would have wanted to know, and what I know so many want to know about the actual vaccines themselves. That was what was super important to me. You know, it's interesting that she had all the same fears that all of us did. You know, how did they whip up this vaccine so fast, and why can I trust it when it turns out it wasn't so fast? They've been working on it for 10 years. Right. Little things like that people don't know. So that was a good one. And oh God,
sounds like a good one.
There are so you should have asked me ahead of time, because I'm trying to scroll through in my mind.
I saw you were with Damien Washington a bit. I interviewed him. Gosh, he's so funny. Yeah. He's one that I don't even have to have notes. I'm just like, just go, just do you. So I think I'll be with him soon, but I'll do his. But he's so funny. He's just he's so great.
Damien was a good one. He was definitely a good one. I did. They had a summit, a virtual summit. And I did some interviews with some neurologists and some specialists.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
That was 2020. And it was a virtual summit because of COVID. Right. And I did an awesome one on the Epstein-Barr virus.
I have that because my son has MS as well. My oldest son, and he had Epstein-Barr. And I had, those things that I had spinal meningitis when I was younger. He had Epstein-Barr. So I'm like, I want you to listen to this.
Yeah. So, it was, she was so informative. So informative. There was one on anxiety. There was one
anxiety. Has anybody had that since So let's chat about that for a bit, because that's one big thing that I talk about with my clients. So the anxiety, the MS gym and stuff like that. Now, you and I know that if we're not moving, the anxiety just keeps going up. Whether
Yeah.
it's moving from the chair, moving from the bed, whatever movement that is, if we are not moving, the anxiety, the stress, the emotional stuff just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And
Yeah.
so how do you encourage your listeners to just begin?
Hmm. See, that's the one thing where um I do not, and I shouldn't say that I've never had anxiety. I think maybe I never identified it as anxiety. Maybe I just considered it worrying or
Yeah,
overthinking about things. Um, but it's very hard for me to, and that's why I love having experts on
right,
anxiety, because I'm not an expert in
right,
anxiety. I kind of take it the other way. I'm all about the positivity. I'm
right,
always,
right,
I never think that this is the end of the road.
right.
I always know there's something else. There's another way, there's another drug, there's another treatment, there's another. I never think this is it.
Yeah.
Even
And
when,
that's so good, Brooke.
yeah, even when, Tysabri at the time was it.
Right,
And
right.
before I knew about HSCT, I knew there was something else, which for me
Yes,
ended up being HSCT. But HSCT is not 100% either. So
sure.
I always knew in my head there might have to be something else,
Right. If
and
that
I still
doesn't
do.
work at some point, there'll be something there.
Yes. I never think, well, this is it, forget about it. I'm done.
Now, would
I
you relate being positive? Is that a faith thing for you, or is that just how you've always been? You've always just had this positive,
It's
contagious,
how I've always
this
been.
personality.
It's how I've always been. I'm a
Okay.
cheerleader. I was for real, and I
Me
am at
too.
heart. Yay! But no,
I start cheering whenever anything comes to me that reminds me. They're like, here we go again. I'm like, I'm sorry, I was a cheerleader, I coached. It's just in me. It just there.
I am telling you, no joke. When I was in a drug trial, you had to meet all these different doctors and they
Yeah.
interviewed you. And he was asking me all these questions, and I was going, yes, yes, yes. And he looked at me, he stopped what he was doing, and he was dead serious. And he goes, were you a cheerleader? And I was like, yes.
I've had that happen so often where I'll be like, I'll get excited, my hands will be like, oh, you were a cheerleader. I'm like, how'd you know? They're like, everything you say, do, we're definitely a cheerleader. I'm like,
It's a reflex.
guilty.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Cinnamon rolls. I'm like, it's just there. So,
Yeah.
so yeah,
But
that's funny. I would not have guessed that. So that's awesome. So in your before life, before diagnosed, what was your career?
I was a study coordinator at an MRI facility of all places, where we get all these cases and we have X amount of radiologists, and based on the diagnosis and the history and the disease or the whatever, I'd have to decide who was the best. And then I'd
Right,
have to follow it through and make sure, yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I think you probably like this life a little bit better.
Yeah, I loved my job. I loved the people
Uh-huh.
that I worked with. It was great. And I was forever, my whole adult life, all about work. Like,
Right.
family was always first, but work was always like right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Right.
so that was the toughest thing for me to give up, was
Yeah.
like that thirst to go in and problem solve and fix
Yeah.
messes. And, you know, so now I do that in this life.
Yeah. I was gonna say you do that now. You just do that in a different
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So that's so now as far as like when you hear people say like get a team together, stuff like that, for our newly diagnosed people, clients or patients that are like a team, what's a team? How do you get a
Well,
team together? I
a
always
support
find that
system.
so right. So I always try to break that down for them because that's a scary thing. Like I didn't know what a team was when I was diagnosed. I
Yeah.
didn't know what that meant. So I think
Yeah.
breaking down some of the things, which I know you do on the podcast, and I think breaking down terms and stuff that we are used to talking about,
Yeah.
but this is all new. They're like, what? And I have to do this
Yeah.
then. And so I think that that's a big thing that I know that we've really talked about moving forward in 2022 is really educating more. And now that we've seen what we can do, whether it's via Zoom or talking, is really, we've seen now the really horrific things on Instagram, right? As we know,
Yeah.
the World Wide Web can give us some amazing information. It can be used for so much good, but also we know it can be used for a lot of negative. And so, I mean, I have been just horrified by some of the people that I've seen trying to teach autoimmune or MS patients. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? And this
Yeah.
is, so in seeing that, you pray and hope that people don't get into that or don't feel
Yeah.
like that's an option. But so educating, I would say, is big. Do you feel that as well, that giving more education this year?
At this stage, the stage that I'm at right now, it's more about following things that have to do with repair,
Yeah.
new research, that's where I'm at
Yeah.
now. But as far as, if you're newly diagnosed, I always tell people to start with the MS Society. I do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, the MS Society gets a bad rap sometimes, and I've been very lucky with the MS Society. But
Yeah.
as a whole, if you need a true starting point, just go there. They'll break
Yeah.
down what's what and what's all the different levels, what's, secondary progressive, primary progressive,
Right.
all of that stuff. Start there, but then find a good neurologist.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's hit or miss, and don't be
Yes.
afraid. Don't be
To
afraid
fire
if you
them.
don't, move it along,
Yes. I always think it's kind of like speed dating when you're looking for a
Yeah.
neurologist. And it's kind of like, I remember after my divorce trying to date again, I was like, this is terrifying. And then just thinking like, I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem thinking like, this isn't going to work. This just won't work. I can't do this. I mean, it was hard for me because I'm not that kind of person that can just be like, I always had a hard time with the whole, we're not going to go on another date, but I found that to be, I just don't see anything that we would ever have in common. So I think that with that attitude, there's got to be this ability to, I always say, Brooke, is a 2-part. You can't go in there with this attitude. Like, you're already pissed off. You know what I mean? Like you're going to the neurologist, and I've seen that too, where they're already like, here's my list. What are you going to do to fix it? I'm like, whoa, like, let's go in. Yes, you want to be assertive. Yes, you want to make sure your questions are written down so you don't forget.
Yeah.
For sure. All of this stuff that you've been dealing with. So, if you're in a pseudo relapse, which for our clients that are patients that don't know that, that's when you're not in an actual relapse. It's just your symptoms that are just acting up because of whatever stress you're under or whatever's happening, weather change. Your husband's driving you crazy. I don't know, but whatever, the kids are not, whatever it is, that's
you're fighting an infection that you don't even know you have yet.
Exactly. A UTI. Something like that. So that can cause a pseudo relapse, which is just your same things that you've always dealt with, and they kind of come back and rear their ugly head. So if it lasts more than 10 days, typically you've got anything new, that's when you'd want to call your doctor and say, having some issues, this is a new one. So I deal a lot with that, but I would say that definitely a lot of new symptoms and a lot of confusion with that, because we had such a break, and so many I would say clients not trusting to go to their neurologist anymore.
Yeah. Well, you have
So
to advocate for yourself, and you have to feel if something doesn't feel right about it consistently, move it along.
Yeah.
Look elsewhere, look at reviews, talk to other people, and see,
And really not just see how many talk to the patients. Don't talk to people that may know them or they're friends with them.
yeah,
They know them from like an interview, something like that, because they don't know them as their doctor. And I've been
Yeah.
guilty of that too, as I, went to see someone that I had, people had said that they had interviewed. He was a great interview. He had a lot of great things to say. And I went and it ended up being a terrible situation. So I would say, really understand them as a neurologist, understand their views on things, understand how much they're willing to listen to you. And if that relationship isn't working, like you said, out, because we don't have
Yeah.
time for that. This is
Yeah.
our life that we're fighting for.
Yeah.
So,
And they're not going to take it personally. They've got
no, and if
hundreds of
they
other
do,
patients,
yeah, some of them do, but then that is definitely not a neurologist you want anything to do with.
Yeah.
And I would say, Brooke, tell me, because we talked about this a little bit before. So we talked about how the more knowledge we have, the older we get, the more knowledge we have, and we advocate for ourselves to a neurologist. Sometimes their arrogance, if I can say, will get them to a point where they're like, you could always go to this place in this other city. So I found that a lot with the more that I advocate, the more that they know I do a podcast, the more they know I do things, that they're a little nerved up about what I know. And they're like, they like the patients that don't fuss too much and don't know too much. That's their
don't rock the
favorite.
boat.
Don't rock that boat. So have you found that?
No.
Really?
Nope.
But you love your neurologist, so
Yes.
that's fair.
My neurologist
So,
and my hematologist
yes.
who I went to after transplant, because you have to have,
Mhm.
you don't have to have a hematologist, but I do have one. They've been supportive all along. They know I do the podcast. They know that I patented the device. They know all the things, and they're all about it.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's really good. That's awesome, because I would say to people who find that, don't be upset with yourself, because I went through some time where I felt like, am I just too assertive and my husband had to talk to me and my friends and my support team would say, absolutely not. It's the
No.
first time that you are asserting for your own health, and you've got to do that. You've got some big things happening. But I did find that. So I would say caution to, a lot of our patients, our MS patients, that when you find that, because you're doing so much reading and you've got some good information, you've talked to some quality people, and that's a definite red flag. If that neurologist is offended by your knowledge and not happy to talk with you, that's a red flag, I would say, for sure.
I mean, think about it. Let's say it's totally different, but like when you're interviewing a nanny, let's say
Yes.
for your kids,
Right.
you're going to be more particular with you're going to be looking for red flags everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Because
sure.
they're going to watch the most precious thing in your life.
Absolutely.
And if you get a bad vibe, they're out.
For
Even
sure.
if they look fantastic on paper, which so many doctors do,
Absolutely.
if you get a bad vibe, if there's just something, don't ignore those red flags,
Right.
and say, I'm sorry, but this just isn't going to work.
Yeah. And it's okay to do and go out and your merry way. And shoot, I've had times where I've made just loaves of banana bread and said, thank you, it was great, loved it, but I'm not gonna, because my personality is just like that. I'm like, I'm Italian, I can't help it, I gotta do something, I gotta feed you. So it's just one of those things. So I love that you've been able to do that, because I think, Brooke, you've got, like I've said before, it'd be crazy not to listen to your story, because I've never heard it done so well, and how you explained it. I was like, I get it. For the first time, I understood stem cell. I understood the letters I'll never get right, the HSCT. But
Yes.
I didn't really get it, or the numbers that you had to be to, like a 5
Yes.
or a 6, and explain that a little bit.
What with regard
The
to,
numbers that you
oh,
have
the
to be for.
EDSS, the
Yeah.
EDSS. Okay. The EDSS is a scale of mobility, of
Mhm.
functionality. And 6, by the time it goes from 1 to 10,
Mhm.
by the time you're, say, a 5.5 or 6, you're starting to need assistance.
Uh-huh.
And I believe 6 is 5.5 is unilateral, which would be
Right.
just a cane.
Okay.
And I think 6 is
When you need both.
bilateral. Yeah,
Okay. Got
you
it.
need both. 7 is wheelchair, you're using a
Okay.
wheelchair. Yeah. So, and different facilities, different HSCT facilities have a cutoff. They'll only
Okay.
take patients up to a certain, EDSS score.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I assume it's different. And so I would definitely encourage you, listen to that, because you'll learn so much that I didn't know. And Brooke, I was so thankful, because I'm like, I want to understand this more, but it's not something you're going to go to the neurologist and they're going to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to understand this more, because this is something I'm really looking to do. And
Yeah.
so if I can, I want to know, I wanted it explained to me
Yeah.
in a way that I can understand. I think you did a great job of explaining it in a way that we can understand it.
Cool.
So I think that was really
It's always the
awesome.
goal.
It's always the goal. You do a great job at that. So for
Thanks.
you, your biggest, now that you've had that, what have you faced? Any symptoms? What are the biggest things that you've heard of, that you've had?
Trigeminal neuralgia.
Yes,
Which
that.
I only had very briefly before transplant, and definitely
Okay.
not to the degree that I had after transplant.
Okay.
That was my biggest challenge. But also, I've had shingles. I've had shingles 7
Okay.
times.
I've only
And
had them twice. They are so bad.
well, every time I get them, my symptoms go to crap. And that's also, it's a precursor to my trigeminal attacks. They kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
It's all
Yes.
herpetic, which is, the herpes virus, which is
Right.
shingles.
Right.
So they're all intertwined. And Epstein-Barr, they're all
Yep.
intertwined. So that's been my biggest challenge. But I really haven't had that many. It's only, I've had worsening of pre-existing symptoms, no new
Yeah.
symptoms,
Good.
which is always the goal, you know.
Yes.
So, and my MRIs have all been clean for the last 8
Good.
years, and
I mean, cognitively, you seem like very on.
I am.
I don't feel like
Thank
you've
God.
got,
Thank
yes.
God.
I mean,
That's
this last year for me has been very big, like cognitive stuff, which is, at first I thought I can't do the podcast, the brain fog. And then I was like, that's not stopping me. No way. No way.
Yeah. Well,
Because
lucky
it
for
can
you,
be.
I think you're naturally chatty. So it
True.
helps. It helps, just constantly. You don't realize how much talking and reading and, I'm constantly watching news and reading
Yes,
things, and just that keeps the synapses going all the time.
exactly.
It's like physical therapy for your brain.
Yes,
But
for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
from there, like as far as your walking and stuff, how is that?
it's the same. I mean,
Okay.
I it's about the same. It all depends. It truly depends. It
Right.
depends on what time of day it is. I'm
Yeah.
worse than, depends what kinds of shoes I'm wearing. Depends
Right.
if I'm in my bare feet or wearing shoes. Depends if I'm
Yeah.
outside in the grass or on a solid surface.
Okay.
It all depends. But in the house, I use no aids at all except for my
Okay.
device when I need
Uh-huh.
to or need it. When I need it, I don't use it for walking. I use
Okay.
it to help me walk better and carry things and do things at the same time. That's the main reason I use it. But if
Yeah.
I'm outside of the home, I use 2 trekking poles.
Okay.
Whether I'm on a solid surface, grass, wherever, I take the 2 poles. which
Okay.
I used to only use one. And that was a
Yeah.
mistake. That was a huge mistake. And that's why my hips were always out of alignment. But I didn't know that
Gotcha.
until
Makes
Trevor
sense.
came along.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm having Trevor on do that
Yes.
episode
I think
to
that's really
tell us
important.
why,
Yeah.
why is it more important?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. I
think
know
about it.
that. But
There
I'm
is
going to
a
listen to
right and a
Trevor.
wrong way to
Yes.
use a cane.
Well, get your gait off. And just like when people favor one side, when they're walking, they favor that side and it gets the gait off and then it messes your
And the
hips up.
leaning posture.
Yes.
It's all about
Yes.
posture.
Yes.
So,
I'm constantly like roll back before anyone does anything. I'm like, roll back. We're all here. Like roll back. So, and that's a constant thing. I feel like I could say it on repeat, roll back, roll shoulders back, roll it back, roll it back. Because before we can do anything, it's just roll back, breathe, and then get started with whatever that movement is. So that's a big thing. I love that you're doing the podcast. I love that you're going into different things. And I'm just excited about what's next for you.
Well,
that you're
thank you.
everywhere. You're all over the place.
So are you.
Well, right now, yeah, I feel like I'm everywhere.
That's the thing. I mean, there's room for anybody with a voice out there. I'm all about encouraging anybody who wants to start an MS podcast of their own, because everybody's got their own jam, their own style, their own vibe. And there's room for all of it.
Absolutely. And people that want to know different things. Like I want to know about the HSCT, but I want to know you. I want to know what makes you do, what makes you want to be in the MS gym, what makes you tick, what makes you want to help people. So I'm a people person. I want to know, why do people want to know Brooke Slick? Why do they want to follow you on the podcast?
Yeah.
What's so great about the MS Gym podcast? So I want to know those things. And I want my followers to know these are people that are good people. The people that I have on for the people who listen to this are people that you can trust and listen to, that you can be encouraged by. And so many times I've seen, like we talked about, to nausea, is the people that I'm just like, no. So I'm so grateful for someone like you, Brooke, and so grateful for what you do, for what you bring to the MS world. And looking forward to the interview that you're doing with Trevor. And I will work on you help me with this one. I want to get Trevor and his wife on. So
okay. I'll do what I can.
Help me out that. Okay. I definitely want to help out and be a part of, whatever that I can with your moving forward. I'm just so excited about what you've done and how you've explained this so well, and how you're going to move forward with getting some doctors on, and really just the research and stuff. So looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
And what
Thanks
I
for
always
having
say
me on.
is, absolutely, we are here to disrupt your idea of what you thought you could see. My disrupt, it's all coming together.
That's
disrupt
right.
the idea of what you thought you could not do. And so often we do believe we can't. So I'm here to tell you and disrupt you and let you know that you can do so much more. So Brooke, we are so grateful to have you. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and log us off, and then I'll be right with you. All right, guys. Thank you. Great job. Great to see you guys again. See you next week. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday, and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that, and we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together.